Think about the way you would talk to your best friend if she was struggling. You would probably have patience and warmth. You would withhold judgment and criticism. Now, think about the way that you talk to yourself in the same situation when you're struggling. How do you talk to yourself? Is it in the same way? I'm willing to bet it's probably not. And if there's a gap between those two, the gap between how you would talk to your friend and how you talk to yourself, that gap is actually costing you way more than you know. Welcome to your daily hit of grace and grit, your quick dose of inspiration to kickstart your day. I'm Courtney Townley, and here is today's hit. There's a little concept, I'm sure you've heard of it. It's called self-compassion. And I want to be very clear from the outset of this podcast, we're not talking about self-pity. Self-compassion is not lowering your standards. And it's not letting yourself off the hook. I know a lot of people interpret it as that. I've coached so many women that have said to me, oh, but Courtney, if I'm nice to myself, I won't actually do any work. Self-compassion is, in the most practical sense, applying the same quality of care and understanding to yourself as you would anyone else in your life that you care about. And the research on what self-compassion actually produces in terms of motivation, resilience, healthy behavior, and emotional stability is some of the most compelling that I've read in the wellness space. We often convince ourselves that it's going to make us softer to the point of being problematic. But what self-compassion actually does is it makes you stronger and more resilient. So in my book, The Consistency Code, I mention author Kristin Neff. And Kristin Neff has her own book, literally on self-compassion. It's Self-Compassion, the Proven Power of Being Kind to Yourself. And in the book, which I highly recommend you check out, she identifies 3 components of genuine self-compassion. Those 3 components are self-kindness, treating yourself with the same warmth that you would a good friend. The second is common humanity, recognizing that struggle and imperfection are a shared human experience, right? They're not evidence of personal failure. And the third is mindfulness, holding your painful feelings in balance with awareness rather than suppressing them or becoming consumed by them. So a little passage from her book, she writes, instead of mercilessly judging and criticizing yourself for various inadequacies or shortcomings, self-compassion means you're kind and understanding when confronted with personal failings. Her research shows that self-compassion is a stronger predictor of emotional resilience and sustained motivation than self-esteem. Mainly because it doesn't depend on performance or external validation. So here's why this matters, specifically in the context of health and midlife. The inner critic, that voice that catalogs every failure, and measures you against an impossible standard and narrates every slip as evidence of fundamental inadequacy, is not a motivational tool. We try to convince ourselves it is. The number of women I have worked with who argue for negative self-narrative because they think it's the only thing that's going to motivate them into change is alarming. I've talked to so many women who believe that. But research consistently shows that the opposite is true. Shame and self-criticism activate the threat response in the nervous system. And if you've been listening to this podcast for even just a few weeks, you've heard me talk about what a threatened nervous system does, right? It elevates cortisol. And ultimately, it reduces your capacity for clear thinking and wise decision-making. And the behaviors you're trying to change get harder, not easier, because you're not doing your best thinking and you're not doing your best decision-making. Self-compassion, by contrast, activates the care system. It activates the parasympathetic side of the nervous system, the same neurological circuitry that responds to warmth and safety. In this state, right, parasympathetic, the nervous system is regulated. The prefrontal cortex, the thinking part of your brain, is more accessible. And that expands your capacity to be thoughtful and forward-thinking, a better problem solver, and just generally make choices that are better for your life. In other words, you make better health decisions from a place of kindness towards yourself than from a place of contempt. This is not philosophy. This is neuroscience. So the next time you catch yourself in a spiral of self-judgment, which, hey, might be pretty soon, it might be later today, I want you to pause and ask, what would I say to my dearest friend if she were in the exact same situation? And then say that to yourself out loud if you can, with the same tone that you would use with her. You've been showing up for other people with extraordinary generosity for a very long time, I have no doubt. It is not weak to turn some of that generosity towards yourself. It is, in fact, one of the most powerful things you could probably do for your health. If this stirred something inside of you, imagine what a whole book of clarity and courage could ignite. The Consistency Code, a midlife woman's guide to deep health and happiness, goes even deeper into the mindset and practices that create real, meaningful change at midlife. Grab your copy today over at theconsistencycode.com and keep the momentum alive.